Hey, this is Leonard with Geek Haus, and if you really want to learn how to level up your life, you should be listening to the Time to Shine Today podcast with my good friend, Scott Ferguson. It's time to level up.
Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. This is Scott Ferguson. We're at episode 314 with Leonard Scheiner from Geek Haus. And Leonard helps you really find the correct clients for law firms, for attorneys, whether you're solo or law firms. They're going to help you build your lead generation to bring in the correct clients. And he's not just going to send you any client. He's going to really zero in on the correct client. I know that he is spreading out into other services as well, but we really talked about building law firms today and also solo attorneys. So if you are one or you know somebody that is one, pass on this interview to them and have them break out their digital note taker or their notebook, and because you're going to have lots of notes to take on really how to grow your business and exactly what Geek Haus can do for you. So without further ado, here's my really good friend, Leonard Scheiner from Geek Haus. Let's level up. Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. This is Scott Ferguson, and I got my guy. He spent some time out on the left coast, out in LA, but now he's kind of my homeboy here in South Florida. And his name's Leonard Scheiner. He's the founder and basically the happiness officer over there at Geek Haus. You know, he's been helping law firms, attorneys, and professional service business owners for the past decades with a focus on developing their branding, marketing for new clients, and predictably growing the revenues and online authority for his clients, which I tried to do it alone before, and it doesn't work. You're going to need some help of my good friend Leonard. You know, today he is, again, the CEO of Geek Haus, a law firm agency based on the left coast out in Los Angeles, but he lives that laptop lifestyle where he can kind of work from anywhere and help people level up. And Leonard, thank you so much for coming on. Please introduce yourself to Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. But first, what's your favorite color and why?
Scott, thanks for having me on. Favorite color. Favorite personal color would have to be sage. It's
Sage.
Calm, it's natural, it's relaxing. Yeah, I love sage. As a business color, though, I love teal. It's communication. Teal.
Okay.
It's the Geek Haus color. It's communication. It's authenticity. Yeah. I love it.
I love that you said sage. I know it's a color, but my assistant on Thursdays is when I do all of my interviews. Okay. And she comes in and she does sage before, and it sets my scene for the day of leveling up, and and be able to make people like you shine. And that's fantastic. So let's get to kind of the roots of you here, Leonard, if you don't mind, and kind of like where it started. Cause you said you've been doing this a decade, and with all due respect, you look about 18. So I know you didn't start it when you were 8, but if you're watching here, Squad, he's a handsome dude, awesome smile, but he's also going to bring some serious knowledge nuggets. So let's get to the roots of where you started here, brother.
Thanks. So yeah, I look pretty young. I attribute that mostly to sunscreen. Thank you so much. But so grew up in California in the Santa Barbara County area, and loved it. Love that area still. It's one of my favorite places to go visit. Did college in Orange County, California, grad school in Los Angeles, and then stayed. So really worked the Los Angeles city to really start my career. Started in law firms, always been in law firms, did a quick stint in entertainment, strategy consulting, but it's always centered around law. I like to say I grew up in law. Like all of my professional jobs have been in the industry. So did that in-house, many different firms, business to business, consumer focused, litigation, immigration, and everything in between.
All those shuns. I love it.
All the shuns.
Why law though?
There was something about like human life, and there's so many different things. Like, how do you control human life, right? But law attempts to put some order to nearly everything, right? Whether it's financial, whether it's medical, whether it's relationship oriented, with kids or marriages, right? So law touches every aspect,
So
every
true.
dark corner of our lives, especially in America, right?
Yeah.
So when I thought about what do I want to do as a human, what's going to serve me at the highest level so that I can wake up and be inspired and energetic to do what I do every day. And I thought I want to help people, right? But I don't like blood, so healthcare was out. And finances are fine, but give me Excel. So, I'm like, what are we left with, right? I just started like checking off industries.
Yeah.
And so since law touches all aspects, I was like, great, I'm going to serve people through attorneys. So what I do in the agency is I help attorneys find their ideal clients better, quicker, faster. So I'm really helping that end client, but through the firm, right?
Sure.
Through a lawyer, a law firm. Yeah.
Right. So with law, okay, so I'm out. My day job for the last 23 years has been a real estate broker, and if you look at that ladder, we're a couple rungs above attorneys and car salesmen. Okay, so with that being said, do you get any pushback when people? Let's ask this another way, because I want to ask it without offending. You know what I'm saying? Because again, everyone's like, "Oh shit, you're an attorney." So. Do you work with your digital marketing to make them shine and put a person to the face that might be on a billboard or a bus bench or something like that? Again, I know you also work with huge law firms too, but is that what you do? Kind of put a shine and put a good personality with them?
Yeah, I would say we do exactly that. So most attorney advertising that you see is, 1-800 I'm in pain on the side of a bus, right?
Yeah.
It's really cheesy.
Right.
That's what we see the most, but even in other sectors, right? Like business to business, corporate type law, it's kind of the same type of thing. No one wants to spend money on legal. No one wants to have an attorney unless you're going to get something. And it's still hard, right? You're still making a decision. So everything that I do as a strategist, that my agency does in creative, we're looking to build that relationship because everything is based on relationships. So we are telling the story of the person. We are telling what makes them unique. We're telling what makes them different than their competitors. We're telling about them in a way that's still professional, still holds them as a legal expert, but also brings out their personality because that's what your clients are going to connect with. And that's a really narrow line to balance for some attorneys.
It's tough for attorneys across the board because there's a lot of people that come to me and digital market level up my real estate business. And there's a lot of people that overpromise and underdeliver. What kind of stuff do you do to make sure that they're comfortable when they hire you, for one, and that you overdeliver?
Yeah, most agencies, and this kind of speaks to like what is unique about Geek Haus, that the agency I run, is that I like full-fledged 360 plans. Doesn't mean you need to do everything. Of course, it all works in concert, so it's better if you do. But the person who's going to tell you need to be on social media, let me do your Instagram.
Right.
That's like a match in a fire, right? You're not, what are we doing there?
Right.
Because if it's not tied to a strategy, if there's no ROI, if we're not looking at, what are we doing? Where are we shooting?
Sure.
You always aim before you shoot.
Right. Yes.
Most people in marketing do not.
Right. They just kind of ready, fire, aim kind of mentality. So when you're working with an attorney as a prospect and you're working to make them a client, make sure they're a right horse for your course as well, right? Is there any secret sauce that you use, if you don't mind sharing, Leonard, to maybe help them find their blind spot in their business?
Yeah, one of the things that we work with most is like identifying who you serve, right? And that's usually a really difficult conversation to have because you want to serve everyone, right?
Yes.
So like we serve attorneys and law firms, but we also have real estate agents, right? Like yourself.
Right.
We have brokers as well. We have financial service people. It's professional services. And the thread there is you're selling yourself as an expert. It's professional. You need to have a high level of understanding about what you're talking about.
Sure.
So it's hard to have a high level of expertise when you're talking in 50 different industries, right? So when we work with a real estate agent, when we work with a law firm, when we work with a financial advisor or a coach, we're telling them zero in on who that ideal client is. Maybe there's a few of them, that's fine. But you can't be like Subway where you just put a sandwich sign out and expect everyone wants your,
right.
Doesn't work.
I love that you broke it down like that. And when maybe you're working with the professional that needs your services, is there any good question that you wish they would ask you but never do during that discovery period?
I like to know how committed they are.
Okay.
I want to know how committed they are to growing their firm, to leveling up themselves, because any marketing, any sales, any day, really, it's an opportunity to be seen, right? If you're in front of a prospect, you need to be seen. So how are you showing up to make sure that you're showing up as best as you can, but also what are you evoking out of that other person, right?
Right.
If they're a very controlling type person, I need to walk into that room differently than if they're a very supportive type person.
Right.
The communication needs to be different. And so that's not something that you're really able to parse out in marketing, right? Because it's usually at volume.
Right.
But that's kind of the second step where when I'm working with a client and we're coaching through things, or, we're looking at like sales strategy, something of that sort, it's less about the product. I mean, it is always about the product, but that product is about how you sell it, right? It's kind of like sell me the pen, right?
Right.
How do you show up to sell that pen?
Got it. So is there any good question though that you wish they would ask you but never do?
Question that they would ask me. I don't know what question I would want them to ask.
I appreciate that. It's something like whenever I'm working with a coach, I always ask their lineage. Hey, what's your lineage of coaching to make you who you are? That's something that, why should we hire you? Or what do you expect of us? No, I just like to throw that in there a little bit, but you're so put together. I see your programs and it's rock star. So have you seen the movie Back to the Future?
I have.
Okay, let's get in that DeLorean with Marty McFly. Let's go back to let's say the 18-year-old Leonard. Is there any good knowledge nuggets with what you know now that you would put on him to maybe not change anything, because you live a heck of a life, but maybe help shorten that learning curve or blast through maybe just a little bit quicker?
I would say if I was going back to my 18-year-old self, I would say double down on what you are wanting to do. Because for quite some time, I wanted to do this.
Sure.
And I held myself small and thought, that's not safe. That's not comfortable. I should, follow the herd and get a corporate job and do these things that are traditionally safe and good and comfortable with benefits and 401ks and all these great things. But as I'm looking at that now, it's like, that was great to do. You get great experience doing those types of things. Mm-hmm. But at some point you have to take ownership of your own life, and you have to say, you know what, who's captaining this ship? Are we creating by default?
Right.
Or are we creating intentionally? And so
what was that moment, brother? Like, I mean, it always comes, because I know mine, when really it brought me into building Time to Shine Today in 2009. I have a heck of a story with that. But what was that moment? What happened that day where you're like, shit, I'm just going to do this?
Well, I was not 18. It was years past that.
No, exactly. I'm getting past that.
Yeah, it was definitely past that. I think when I had graduated from business school, I was consulting with clients on my own. So I always kind of had a small private, group of clients that I would work with, even when I had an employer. But it was at the time when I had the office, the window office on Wilshire. I had all of these things. And I remember just like looking out and being like, this is not what I wanted to create. Like on paper, I checked literally every box that I thought, if you asked me years before, it's like, what does success look like? What is that goal for you? I had checked the boxes and then I wasn't happy. So I'm like, where do we go?
That's awesome. That's almost exactly how it happened with me.
I think that's how it has to happen.
Yeah. That's man, verbatim, like just years apart, but just kind of like brothers with different mothers, man. This is awesome. So how do you want your dash remembered? That little line in between your incarnation date, your expiration date, your life date, your death date. Hopefully it's a long ways down the line, but how do you want that dash to be remembered?
I would like to be remembered as someone who gave above and beyond himself in excellence. Wow. So what that looks like is being, whether they're a client or a friend or a family, whatever. Sometimes people need that push and they need that hard lesson or that hard conversation to be had. And a lot of times I think people will shy away from that because it's difficult. I try to not do that. Of course, we're not perfect.
Right.
I'm not perfect, but with love, being candid about your feedback and truly making it constructive. But that feedback is so important. So important.
You are so well spoken, and I'm not just trying to blow smoke up. Yeah, but you are that. If you were to bring it up to me and be like, "Fergie, man, I'm seeing this and seeing this," I would actually listen to you because you're not coming at me from an angle of oppression or like you're a dumbass or anything like that. And that's one thing I appreciate. And that's why you're succeeding in this world. Because I mean, come on, attorneys are egos. Yeah, they're huge egos, which you want that in the courtroom. You have to have that for you be able to, kind of just slow them down a little bit and show them the big picture and show them the route. I love that about you, Leonard. So what do you think people misunderstand the most about you?
What do people misunderstand about me? That's an awesome question. I think I'm a pretty clear communicator, but what do people misunderstand? So I'm not a great, I don't have a high level of patience.
Okay.
I have a high level of empathy, but not a high level of patience. So look, if you're going through something, if we're working through it, great, but we got to be taking steps together and I'll feel for you, right?
Right.
But I do not have patience when, things have been asked multiple times or like, don't play the victim role, because if you can Google it, do not ask me for that.
Right.
There's certain things where it's like, you need to help yourself. And
yes, thank you.
And awesome. Some clients, they have the ego, right?
Sure.
Doctors, lawyers, business executives, they have that ego. That's why they are where they are.
Right.
That's awesome. But we also have to have like an angle of humility to that.
Wow.
And I love to bring that out. So if they're chugging in one direction, there's no problem in my mind saying, no, that's actually not going to work. And here's why. Wow. And you can either respect that and take the advice, or you can go your way and realize it's going to fail. I don't mean that to sound like all knowing,
right?
But I've definitely heard the feedback. You asked what people might not understand from me, right? Or what.
But you're coming from a place of service to it, and they hired you for a reason. You tell them they need to do something. And I'm the same way with my coaching. I'm not the right horse for every course. They get ready to grind with me is my kind of affectionately say to them. I love it. So then what if anything keeps you up at night, Leonard?
I like to get results for clients. When I see a campaign not working and I know that they're up at night, that keeps me up at night. There's definitely a level of community that's established. There's a relationship, right?
I love that you said that, because I coach West Coast clients on Tuesdays and Wednesday nights. And those are my least nights of sleep. My Oura Ring tells me that because, I coach hard in a good way. And when I'm shutting everything down, I send them their homework and get going. It's just like, could I have did something different? You know what I'm saying? Because I coach them later at night because of the 3-hour difference. So that's really the only thing. I love that what keeps you up at night comes from a place of service. I love that. So let's take out of this equation anything electronical or the basic needs of water or fire or, food. Like, what are 3 things that Leonard can't live without?
Ooh, okay. So we're taking out, okay. So we're not stuck on an island like Survivor.
Right.
No.
Like but no iPhones, no, iPad, nothing electronical, and obviously no food, water, stuff like that. But what can't you live without?
Oh, no food or water. Okay. So coffee would kind of be.
I'm right there with you, my friend.
I think we have to put that as number one. I love coffee. And it's not just like, oh, I have to have my cups in the morning.
Right.
No, we're like artisanal about this. Like a
Me
coffee.
Dude, we gotta meet, man. This is awesome.
There's a coffee shop here that I go to in Sunny Isles, and it's like coffees from around the world. And so I would go in there and get my standard, vanilla latte with oat milk.
Right.
And one time the girl was like, would you like to try the Colombian roast? Same everything, just different bean. And I'm like, sure, let's try it. Coffee went from a 8.5 to a 12 very quickly. So, connoisseur wise, coffee, it's a little bit more than a drink for me.
Okay.
So I love that. I would have to say, what can I not do without? My dog.
All right. Very cool.
You got to have loved ones around.
Yeah.
And
I have a pit bull laying right here, man. Well, every time I do it, love it.
They're always around, right?
Yes. Loyal and loving and forgiving. Dogs are the best. What's number 3?
Number 3.
Maybe attorneys for business.
Yeah, I mean, I guess clients, right?
I think you need community, man. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I think community is pretty important to you, just like it is to me. So then what is Leonard's definition of a life well lived?
You get up every day and you're energetic about what you're doing. If you're slugging through, whether you're a CEO or the janitor, right? If you're slugging through the day, there's something else out there for you to do, to get involved in, something of that.
Not living that passion. Absolutely love that. Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. We are back with my good friend Leonard Scheiner from Geek Haus. And Leonard, we're going to meet up one day probably pretty soon. And we could probably talk 15, 20 minutes on each one of these questions I'm going to ask you. But you got 5 seconds with absolutely 0 explanations. You ready to level up?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Leonard, what is the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
Leveling up advice I've ever received would be to stay true to yourself.
Yes. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Get adequate sleep every night.
Yes. So you see me walking down the street, he looks like he's in his doldrums a little bit. Is there a book you might hand me to make sure I'm reading?
Get Out of Your Own Way by Bob McIntosh.
Yes. Very good. What's your most commonly used emoji when you text?
Depends on who I'm texting. Perhaps the heart emoji. Purple heart.
Purple heart. Okay. I was going to ask what color. Nicknames growing up?
Lenny, Leo, Lenny Joe.
Love it. Chess, checkers, or Monopoly?
Ooh. If it's with my brother, we'll do checkers. If it's with the family or friends, Monopoly.
Love it. Beautiful. Go-to ice cream flavor?
Oat milk. Brown. It's oat milk because we don't do dairy. We choose a vegan diet. And what is that? It's coconut. It's like it's like toffee and peanut butter and chocolate. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Probably has a cool name.
There's a sandwich named the Leo Scheiner. What's on that sandwich?
Oof. A good green or hummus type spread to start. Lots of veggies, of course. Mm-hmm. And we're going to take the falafel balls and smush them.
Oh, there you go, dude.
Air fry them and put them on there.
Love it. Love it. Favorite charity and organization you like to give your time or money to?
There's an organization called Dress for Success.
Okay.
And they help people who are not as fortunate as some other people, and they get them dressed so that they can look nice on interviews.
Love it. Love that, man. I do the same kind of for veterans, here in Palm Beach, and get them ready. Beautiful. Thank you for doing that. And last question, you can elaborate a little bit on this one, Leonard, but what is the best decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
Best music, 90s.
90s. Awesome.
Hip hop. Oh, yes.
There you go. I graduated in 1990, right? So 80s was kind of my jam, but I was in the military, and then I loved the garage bands and the kind of grunge and the hip hop that kind of rolled out in the 90s as well. So it's kind of a mesh for me. So Leonard, how can we find you, brother?
Best place is on our website, gogeekhaus.com. So go Geek, Geek, and then house is Haus. So gogeekhaus.com.
Love it. And is there anything that I believe that you got a few maybe master classes or anything that's coming out, and maybe you can share with us?
Yep, we are actually putting together right now, and it'll be beginning in a few months, the beginning of August. We are putting together the Law Firm Growth Master Series. So it is free for anyone to attend. And that master series is going to bring together a whole host of experts, all centered around growing law firms. And we could map that over to, any professional service type firm. But we're centering on law firms and everything from marketing, sales, accounting, succession planning, the whole gamut.
When is that rolling out here, you thinking?
It launches the beginning of August.
Beautiful. Awesome. And do me one last solid here, Leonard. Can you leave us with one last knowledge nugget that we can kind of take with us, internalize, and take action on?
Systems and processes make your life easier to achieve the goals that you want. So if you look at a goal, it's like looking at a hamburger. How do you eat a hamburger? Bite by bite. So that big goal that you have, what is the action that you can take this month, this week, today, now, to be able to achieve that and start working towards it? Because 2 steps towards your goal is better than 50 steps in circles.
Thank you for saying that. I love it. In my coaching, that's exactly how I coach. And squad, we got an awesome, I don't know if we really call it a masterclass. It was more kind of a conversation about how my good friend Leonard helps people, law firms, other companies really level up. He grew up in law, and he reminded us that law is part of pretty much everything in human life. How to control things. Law, in Leonard's words, put some order into life. And I love that. He serves people really, through attorneys to help them find their ideal, clients. Reminds us to look to build relationships by telling the story of the attorneys. Okay, what makes them unique and different from their competitors? So if you're an attorney out there and you're listening, let me make a warm introduction to my good friend Leonard here. He puts together 360 plans to work in concert with what you have to help you. He's not making you change. He's taking what the good parts of you are. He goes deep. He identifies who you serve. You don't want to serve everybody. He's going to find that niche with you that's going to help you level up. He's going to zero in and dig deep. And if you're kind of stuck out there, Leonard wants to remind us to double down on what you're wanting to do, your passion. A lot of people get froze. Leonard and I both went through that. He had his time looking out the window in Ventura. I had my time in Detroit saying, what the hell am I doing this for? And you make that plan. If you don't know how, why don't you get your asking gear and ask for help and get somebody out there that will help you do that. He's going to be reminded as someone that gave above and beyond himself. My friend Leonard is planting trees that he's probably never going to sit in the shade of because of his attitude of wanting to help you level up. He's known as somebody that has clear communication, a high level of empathy, a low level of patience, but he does, even with that, he has a really good angle of humility when he's talking to you about things that you really need to change. His life well lived is, living your day energetic about what you're doing, not slugging through, because if you're slugging through, you're not doing what your creator was putting you on this earth to really attain, And he reminds us lastly that systems of prophecies make life easier to attain, but don't do it all at once. Like we say here at Time to Shine Today, inch by inch, it's a cinch. By the yard, it's hard. And that's exactly what, Leonard said. I believe he said, 2 steps towards something is better than 50 steps towards freaking whatever, because you're not really zeroing in. And Leonard, you level up your health, you level up your wealth, you're humble, yet you're hungry. I love it that you're local here. We got to connect and collaborate on something. And I just love your guts, brother. Thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait to see you again.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Scott, for having me.
You bet. Chat soon.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today podcast. Proudly brought to you by Sutter & Nugent Real Estate Excellence, who can be reached at 561-249-7266 and online at www.sutterandnugent.com. If you are a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on Time to Shine Today, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also there, you will see our recommended resources. We hope that you will support our show by supporting them. If you like what you've been listening to, it'd be great if you could just give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's our time to shine.